It's time to get stacking. So Sminston With, he said that Bitcoin has a way of getting away from you. And he has this awesome chart. Lines represent how long it takes to stack one Bitcoin if you start in that year. So if we look at like 2025 right now, if you put in $300 per week, it's going to take you a decade to reach one Bitcoin. Now, that's concerning that you might never reach a Bitcoin. You're probably not if you're just a normal person like myself. But having point one, having point two, whatever you can get to is going to be more valuable than any other allocation of the resources that you have. So this is not a discouragement to stay out of Bitcoin, but it's to warn you that you're going to get less and less as time goes on. Because if you look at the year 2033, you'd have to put $1,000 in a week, and it would still take you 30 plus years to reach one Bitcoin. Based on, I assume this is like moving averages, through time or something like that.
It's
I don't know
power
how you
law.
built the chart exactly.
Based on
Is it power law based? Okay.
Yep.
Well, there you go. So, interesting chart, Greer. What would you say to people who I think are probably looking at this and they're like, I'm never going to make it, not worth it?
This chart to me says smash buy. And that's a question that Bitcoiners always have. What's better? Should I dollar cost average or should I smash buy? And if you're in the position to smash buy, that's what you should do. You shouldn't just wait, 6 months to bleed out whatever amount of cash that you have to put into Bitcoin. Get as much as you can immediately as possible and then wait. And I think once you have sort of a foundation of Bitcoin, then you dollar cost average. This is not financial advice, this is just my perspective. But this chart says, even in the best case scenario, let's say you can spend, $1,000 a week, which is a pretty good amount for, most Americans, with the salary being 62,000 on average. I mean, it's still going to take you a lot of time. It still could take you years to stack a full Bitcoin. As the price escapes, I think the other lesson is don't sell your Bitcoin, because as the price moves up, it just becomes a target that gets further and further and further away. So life is tough. I get it. I think we're all getting pinched on one end or the other, but the best thing you can do is hold on to your Bitcoin and wait.
Yeah. I would say if you're trying to decide between a DCA strategy and a smash buy, the answer is a resounding yes. Tony.
Yeah, man, this is
What do
the
you think,
cost
man?
of
This is
wasting time.
concerning for a lot of people.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is the cost of wasting time. The more you linger on zero, wondering if this is, real or not, well, the more expensive it's going to get. And the funny thing is, I mean, this chart can be destroyed, within minutes. Like if Bitcoin goes up by a few hundred points, all of these numbers get exponentially wider, right? And the worst part of this is that the days of buying Bitcoin, even in small numbers, those are going to disappear like very, very soon, simply because of the scarcity, right? 21 million and whatever's left now, 95% of it's already mined, and a lot of people are buying it. And so at some point down the line, when everybody's using Bitcoin, most of people won't even realize that it is Bitcoin in the background. They'll just be using it, just like an extension of whatever it is that they're currently on now. But the days of owning the UTXO, where that real power and generational wealth, that shift that everybody's talking about, that happens now when for people who are owning the UTXOs in 100% self-custody. So if you're in a position to do this, you can get yourself any amount, and don't worry that the number on the screen is small. Like, don't belittle it or think it's like a pathetic one, because that represents a purchasing power, much larger than you can possibly imagine, or much larger than anyone can possibly imagine, because we've never had anything like this. So there's no comparison point. But when 8 billion people finally adopt Bitcoin in one way or another, well, that tiny number is going to stretch for a very, very long time, especially as we're headed towards a world with AI, where the cost of everything is going to pretty much go down to zero as well, right? So this is why you hear conversations now about a world where nobody needs to work, because why would you? You have machines doing everything for free. And so you'll have more time to do whatever it is that you want. I mean, of course, you're going to need some money to, I guess, to live on, in some way, shape, or form. But the amount that you'll need, by then is tiny compared to what it is now. So if you're in a position to still, acquire some Bitcoin, whether it's DCA or smash buy, I mean, there's no right or wrong answer. You pick your flavor. Just make sure you hold it in self-custody. Don't leave it on an exchange or trust it to another institution, because you will lose it that way.
Alrighty, up next, we're not going to get into the details of this article, but Dmitry Kofinas, I don't know how to say the name. He said, "We've created a system where the only way to survive is to be destitute enough to qualify for aid or rich enough to ignore the cost. Everyone in the middle is being cannibalized. The rich know this, and they are increasingly opting out of the shared spaces." So I went into the article. Basically, my TLDR is the metrics and the math used to calculate what the poverty line, at least in the US from like the 1960s, I think it was, said, hey, if you're below $30,000 for a family of four, yeah, that's the poverty line. Now, if you adjust the numbers, you adjust the cost of not just groceries, which was one of the big expenditures during that time, but healthcare, insurance, you've got college education, those sorts of things. You're now looking at a poverty line of something close to $131,000. So insane to imagine a family of four can't be adequately taken cared for at $130,000. But this is sad, and honestly, it's believable. Tony, what's your takeaway?
The thing is, this is a very scary reality, and I don't think the media talks about this enough. I was watching a documentary the other day about how bad the situation in the U.S. is. I'm not sure if you know this, but in Las Vegas, one of the wealthiest states out there. Did you know that there's a population of mole people that live in tunnels underneath all of these casinos? People that have never seen, never seen daylight, living in the worst possible conditions. That's 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 not the worst part. The worst part is in the last 5 or so years, there's an overpopulation in these tunnels where people are living in the worst like conditions imaginable. If it rains, just to give you an example, if it rains for like 10, 15 minutes, people die in these tunnels because of flooding. Yet these people have nowhere else to go. Like, this is just one example of how bad things are, and that nobody's talking about this. So at 131K a year to be considered, under the poverty line, that means almost the whole country is beyond homeless, because most people are not making anywhere near these numbers.
Yeah. It truly, when you look at the math, because I mean, even something is trivial, what should be trivial is like your health insurance here in the US, which unless you're on an employer plan, if you're paying like for a private plan or something like that, you could be looking at high hundreds, multi-thousand dollars per month. So that immediately it's in. You look at like someone like Parker Lewis talks about, like he uses the cost of ground beef, or I'm sorry, of ribeye steak as like a metric for what real inflation is. He's been going back to the same butcher shop or grocery store and looking at it, and I mean, we're like talking 30% plus inflation. Um, it really is. It's understandable that even if you're making $100,000 a year, when you put in your mortgage, when you put in your health insurance costs, groceries, and then just trying to do a trip, a vacations, one fun thing per year, you're not going to make ends meet. It dissipates so quickly. And then the other thing they added was childcare costs. We've got more families you've got two people working, and they're sending their kids to daycare all day, every day, and that's like 30 something $1,000 a year on average. So it's crazy. Greer, you back with us, man?
I'm back. Sorry, guys. Lost power here.
No, no, you're good, man. We had a great chat about this, but any other comments on the cost of living?
I think it's just tough. It just shows you this intro into the article just says it all. We're seeing a wider separation of the rich and the poor. And it looks like the people who were successful making six-figure income at their work, you're also poor now. So not great news. And, I don't have a lot of hope in the administration or our political leaders to turn this around. I think you guys probably said it while I was gone. The money's broken. And until that fixed, none of this really improves.